Hello, Binge Diaries here. Today, I'm going to explain a drama sci-fi film called Finch. Warning. Spoilers ahead. The movie begins by showing a man called Finch Weinberg who is a robotics engineer wearing a UV suit. 10 years have passed since a solar flare destroyed the ozone layer, increasing temperatures to 70 degrees Celsius and Earth looks uninhabitable. His UV suit signals him that the UV radiation in the area is high. He walks into an old store and sees some dead bodies. He tells his helper robot called Dewey to pick up the loot from the store. He then picks up a can of dog food, but before they leave, he is scared by a noise, but on investigating, figures out that it is only metal. They mark the store as cleared and both him and his robot get into their truck and head back. On their way back, they see a sandstorm, so they seek shelter in a nearby building. He is then shown back at his hideout cleaning himself and the robot. He then feeds his dog called Goodyear, but Finch only drinks water since there isn't enough food. Later, he is seen taking out books from a shelf and a robot copies the content from the books, including a manual for training and caring for dogs, as he works on another humanoid robot. At night, he is seen reading a book on radiation poisoning with a look of worry on his face as he stares at his dog. Later, he takes out the eyes from his helper robot Dewey and promises to get him new ones later, then puts the eyes on the new robot he has been working on. He inputs a command to power on the robot and starts transferring the data from the books to the robot. He speaks to the robot, but it does not respond. He asks it to nod its head if it understands him, and eventually it does, and he gets excited that his new creation has come to life. After further tweaking, the robot is finally able to speak and he starts having a conversation with it. He asks it about the primary directives it has, and its main directive is that in Finch's absence, the robot must protect Goodyear, and this directive supersedes all others. The robot recognizes who Finch is and understands how Goodyear is important to him. Later, when the power goes out and the robot is left alone with Goodyear, the robot tries to speak to the dog, but the dog goes and pees on its legs, which have not yet been attached to the robot. As Finch is trying to fix the windmill that powers his house, he spots a storm in the distance. He then comes back and connects his robot to the local weather station, and it informs him that there are 15 separate weather events and that they will intersect at their current location within the next 24 hours, and create a superstorm, and will last approximately 40 days. Feeling stressed, Finch goes and eats pineapples from his fridge. He decides to leave St. Louis and to head west with the hope to find places that haven't been looted along the way, with their final destination being San Francisco. Finch then starts to nosebleed, showing that his health has started deteriorating from exposure to UV radiation. He increases the data transfer rate for his new robot and starts to assemble other parts of the robot. He then starts to teach the robot how to walk, and the robot eventually starts teaching himself. Finch then starts packing what he can. Because of the hasty departure, only 72% of the data could be uploaded to the robot. He gives Dewey a new eye and they all get into the RV. The robot asks if it can drive, but Finch says it only just learned how to walk. They now start their journey and nobody can be seen on the roads, and the environment looks destroyed with no sign of life. As they drive, the storm is seen in the far distance in the direction they've come from. After some distance, they stop and Finch starts fixing the back of the robot. Finch and the robot then get out of the RV and he starts teaching him how to loot old buildings. He also tells the robot that the ozone is completely fried and that the EMP destroyed everything electrical in the world. They come to a building and the robot helps him open the door and they get in. As they are exploring the building, the robot identifies a mirror and sees its own reflection for the first time. They find some old popcorn in the building and Finch teaches the robot to live a little, so they pop the popcorn out in the hot sun for fun. His suit signals him that a tornado is approaching, so they get back in the RV and start driving away. After he realizes they can't outrun it, he stops the RV and he and the robot get out and they start tying it down with spikes and winches. He shows the robot how to do it and Finch returns to the vehicle and lets the robot finish the rest of it. As the tornado gets closer and closer, he tells the robot to get back in the vehicle and they hold on and brace for the impact. The tornado hits and everyone is okay except for one tire. They fix the tire and they start discussing what to name the robot. The robot then settles on the name Jeff, and that's what they decide to call it. The next day, Finch is woken up by the dog Goodyear and Jeff making noise as Jeff is trying to talk to it by barking. Jeff thinks that the dog doesn't like him, but Finch tells him that the dog doesn't trust him yet. They get back on the road and Finch starts coughing, so they stop at an old building and gets out because he doesn't want the others to see his poor state. He gets out without his UV suit into the shade so the sun doesn't harm him and coughs blood in the building. He then sees Jeff dragging the dog forcefully out of the RV and takes the dog away back into the building and tells Jeff to stay put in the RV. Jeff gets curious in the RV, so he starts driving it forward, making it so that Finch can't get back in because it had left the shade. Finch tells Jeff to fetch him the UV suit, but Jeff decides to drive back the RV as Finch is yelling at him to stop because Jeff can't drive yet. Finch gets mad at him for being reckless and reminds him that his main directive is to take care of the dog and wants Jeff to understand how vulnerable they are. Later, Finch starts teaching Jeff how to drive, and he eventually learns how to drive and tells him to always keep the speed under 50 miles per hour because of the modifications he made to the car so it doesn't need extra gas. Later that night, while they're keeping warm outside around the fire, Jeff wonders why they don't travel at night, seeing that daylight is so dangerous. Finch tells him that at night there are many unknowns, that people are lurking at night waiting to ambush each other, and that Jeff shouldn't trust other people. Finch and the dog then go to sleep in the RV while Jeff decides to stay outside. In the morning, Jeff rushes in the RV to find Finch puking. His condition has gotten worse. Jeff then drives the car while Finch rests in a bed in the RV as they continue on their journey. They eventually drive into a city, and while Finch is still resting, Jeff takes Dewey outside to explore. They get into a building and start looking for loot. Back in the RV, Finch wakes up to find both Jeff and Dewey gone. He looks outside to find they're in a city and he gets worried. He then puts on his UV suit and goes to look for them in the building. Dewey then gets destroyed in a trap while trying to collect some loot. Finch finds him destroyed and gets very sad. Finch hears another person in the building and hurries to get Jeff. He gets mad at Jeff for going to that building, and they both run into the RV and start driving off. The other person starts following them in their car. It is now nighttime while they're still on the road, and they notice the other car following them. Finch turns off the lights because Jeff can still drive at night without the headlights on. They increase their speed and drive towards an underpass. Finch panics and forces Jeff to drive in the underpass even though the RV is too tall because of the modifications they made to it, and they end up losing the solar panels on the RV. They get stuck, so Jeff gets out to push the RV forward so that they're properly hidden in the underpass. The vehicle chasing after them doesn't find them and it drives off. Finch assesses the damage to their car and starts giving up, and this makes him lash out at Jeff. Jeff hasn't given up yet because he still believes in Finch. When morning comes, they head back on the road with Jeff driving. A butterfly hits and dies on the windshield, causing Jeff to wake up Finch. They stop the car and Finch puts out his hand only to realize his hand isn't getting burnt by the UV radiation. He gets outside without his UV suit and is astonished to see plants growing in the fields and butterflies flying. They then drive to the fields and Finch puts on a nice suit and they go out to enjoy the sun. Finch tells Jeff a story about how he never got to see the world and wishes he had done more with his time. Hearing the story, Jeff wants to take Finch immediately to the Golden Gate Bridge, but Finch tells him that he's dying and makes Jeff promise to take care of Goodyear. Finch then teaches Jeff how to play fetch with Goodyear, and Jeff gets excited when he gets it right, but the dog always kept returning the ball back to Finch when Jeff threw it. Finch coughs blood on his suit, and while he's going back to rest in the RV, Jeff asks Finch what he can do for him, but Finch shakes his hand telling Jeff that he had already done more than enough, and they hug it out. Finch then goes to rest in the RV with Goodyear, and Jeff is left outside looking sad. He understands more what it means to be human. At night, Finch passes away and Jeff burns his body out in the open. When morning comes, Jeff wonders what to do. He feeds Goodyear, then he plays fetch with him, and Goodyear finally learns to bring the ball back to him. Later, Jeff decides to continue with the journey to San Francisco. They eventually arrive and are seen standing on the Golden Gate Bridge. They see the posters on the bridge and realize they're not the only ones who went in that direction and head out to look for other surviving humans. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like these. Thanks for watching.